I'm LaRie.
And I'm Nick B.
Listen, we're just two single girls from the City of Roses discussing all things love, lust, and perception.
And roses are a symbol of all things beautiful about love.
But as you know, love can get a little dirty, so we're here to talk about it.
Dirty Roses Podcast starts now.
Hey, I'm LaRie.
And I'm Nick B.
And welcome to Dirty Roses Podcast. Today we're talking about something that I am really familiar, well, not familiar with, but I prefer, and something that you're familiar with that and you don't prefer. Yep. And our guest is familiar with, and we don't know if she prefers or not yet, but we're going to find out. But we are being joined by our childhood friends. Mm-hmm. I think I've known her longer. I get to say that for a change. Ow. I'm going to say this little background story. So, you know, me being biracial. Our guest here was one of my very first black friends. And I used to get like the full-fledged black experience at her house. All the cousins would be over there. I had a crush on her older brother. The sleepovers, the everything, like the whole gambit of all things that black families do, I got to experience at her house. Meanwhile, she's coming to my house like, I love coming to your house. And I'm like, let's switch. But we used to play games. We used to play the little lip sync battle games where we would lip sync songs and do competitions. And it was a good time. But very good friend of ours, Indya Davis, right out of the East Coast. You were in North Carolina, correct? South Carolina? Yeah. Yes, North Carolina. Ow, okay. And Miss Indya is the global brand marketer. She's been doing really big things in her aspect of the world, traveling, being on red carpets, and doing the thing, which makes her a great guest for this podcast. But Nick B, you know Indya too.
Yeah, so Indya and I, we went to high school together.
Yes.
We were on cheer. Were you dance also? We did dance? Yep. Cheer and dance. Uh-huh. Deb's sisters.
Oh yes, that's right. We're debutantes.
Yes. And so we absolutely go way back. And I remember I believe we were in the same major, right? For communications, photography, and video. Shout out to Mr. Kelly. Yep, there it is. So
for those of you that don't know, the high school that they went to had trades that you guys could major in high school. Not every high school had that, but their specific school had that, which I was kind of jealous of because I had science and math.
Okay, well, you know.
Yeah,
so yes, we're all pretty good friends here. We go way back, and so it's such an honor to have you on our show.
Thank you. So, well, as you guys know, we start every episode with a story, and so we're gonna talk personal here. I'm new to dating, and I prefer not to date in my city. I'm not new to dating anymore, am I?
No.
Is that why you're laughing? Yeah. Because it's been 2 years, and you're like, bitch, you've been dating.
Right. You date more than me at this point.
No, whatever. These streets.
She's the official habitual dater now.
I am.
Passing that baton.
Is it habitual if it's only been like less than 15,
it's
20 years?
It's still more than me. It's still more.
Don't do me. But yeah, so having been in a relationship for so long, I missed the train for dating people who have not been taken or tainted in our town. So my preference currently is to not date people in my city because I either know too much about you or you have smashed a friend or relative. And so I just prefer not to dip and dabble in those buckets of people, which leaves my pool very, very small. So and also because I'm a very private person, I prefer not to have my business out in the streets. So
as we sit on a podcast.
And tell all my goddamn bit. Right, that's very special.
And so to your point, I think if I lived in the city limits of Portland, I would probably have that same thought process. But I'm actually the opposite of where I do not like dating out of my area code. I mean, assuming that there's different area codes within the city limits that I work in or live and work in, that's one thing. But I used to, when I was younger, think that it was really kind of like the thing to date somebody out of town.
Felt
I'd be
cool.
like, oh yeah, my guy, he lives out of state and all this stuff, right? But today, that's not my bag at all. I'd rather you be within at least a half-hour drive from me because ain't nobody trying to drive miles and hours to get some. I just want you to be there.
Okay. And so we bring Indya on the show because you have lived in multiple area codes and you've had the experience of possibly dating people in these different regions and spaces, but also having the choice of dating somebody in your own area or continuing to date people out of town. So what has your experience been with dating within your area and then outside your area?
So first, I'm super excited to be here with you both. So thank you so much for inviting me. You never know, I guess, what you're gonna get from this one. So I'm excited. But dating, yeah. So I've lived in 3 different cities. Well, of course, 4 with Portland. And I had to date outside of the city or the state because I traveled a lot. So most jobs that I've ever, well, in marketing, I've always had a traveling position. So it's hard to date somebody sometimes when you're in the city, especially when I was younger, if they aren't comfortable with a woman who travels a lot. So you end up dating people on the road. So that was always interesting. So my experience has been like ebbs and flows. Is, if you are dating somebody that's mature that can handle you being on the road and you live in the same city, then you're good. But if not, if he's got some insecurities, then you have to date somebody at your same level who also travels just as much as you do. So that's different.
And how do you meet somebody who travels? Like, is there like a traveling group?
Travel group.
We travel for work, so we want to date in this pool of people that also travel. Is like there like a network of y'all? Or
the day when I was in the music industry, you don't dip your, you don't, as they say, you don't eat where you shit.
Right.
But I did date a few people in the industry. So we met on the road and it was a little bit easier because we were in the same industry and it just made sense. Now meeting people, I've done online dating. Ooh.
Isn't it tough? Isn't it rough? Oh God. It's tough.
It's rough. It's rough. So I've done the online dating. I meet people out here and there, but Charlotte dating pool, everybody like 5'3".
Oh.
But she's not wrong. So I was in Charlotte. I was out there in Charlotte for a conference and it was my first time going. I remember before I went, folks said, "Oh yeah, it has the same vibe and feel as Portland." And so they're like, "Oh, you're going to love it because it has like that same hometowny but city feel." And I'm like, "Okay, so I'm going to love it." And I'm looking around like, "Ooh, I'm going to love me a man out here too, right? Let me find somebody." And I'm already a tall girl. I am whole 5'8.25". And I was looking around like, "All right, shouties." Okay.
She said, "Shouty."
That's exactly how. And you want to give people a chance. So, maybe the universe is saying, "Hey, your man is 5'5". I don't think
that. You do. You start giving little short folks little shots because you're like, maybe this is what little short shots. You're like, maybe this is what God has planned for me.
Oh, and so far not, huh?
So far, no.
So I say all that to say, it's hard. I mean, at 40 years old now, I'm on the road, not as much. So I have to force myself to get out because when I'm not working, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm at home. But, he's not about to come knocking at my door. So I have to find a lounge or, you want to find other places where you can meet people because I'm not doing online dating anymore. That's
I feel like that's where I'm at too.
Yeah, so last season we had an episode where we were talking about somebody who met their husband on an online site, and I was like, "You ain't gonna find me on no online dating."
And guess who we can find on online dating right now?
Just one, because I was like, I'm gonna just dibble and dabble on this social media dating source, and I was right. I don't like it, and it's not for me. I'm an in-person person. Yeah. Except for It's weird because I don't know how I meet people offline or out of state. I think I meet people out of state.
Because you meet them when you're out with me. Goodness. She'll come visit me and she'll be like, "So I met someone great."
And she's like, "How? We were together."
Right.
Meet them like in the airport? Where did you meet them?
No, so I met a guy. Oh, this is bad. Trap house. It wasn't a good story, but it was a story. We went to a go-go live performance. Yeah. And I met a guy, and we chatted for about a month or so. He flew me out, and it was horrible. I've been getting flued out. They've not been great, but I've been flued out. I'm learning to not take every trip that is offered, but so I meet people when I'm out, when I'm traveling, and not great.
So, but on the subject of meeting people when you're out traveling in India, this is a great question for you too. So you're meeting folks and you're attempting to date. If they already live out of state and much like you're established and settled where you are, what's the end game? how do you determine like this person is someone I want to take serious? Because that's kind of the point of dating, is meeting that one that you really want to dedicate your time and energy to. But if you guys live in Texas and Charlotte, like who's moving for who? Like why do we or do you like what? That's always been my hesitation.
That's a great question. I think if somebody may not like this, but I think sometimes if you're bored, you might entertain it because it gives you something to do. Yeah. However, if the conversation is interesting enough and you're open to moving, you may explore like, hey, it's, I'm open to it. For me, I need somebody within some level of close proximity. Like if you're about 4 or 5 hours away, that's not too bad. It's not, and I'm saying like driving distance. I'm not driving, but it's still somewhat okay. But at this point, I need you closer. Like, because if I want to go on a date, I want to do something, you're not close. And that's the struggle, because you might meet great guys on the road. And I think you use your judgment. Like if you just have a connection and you're like, wow, like I really want to continue talking to this person, you have to, it's hard sometimes for me to decide, like, is it a non-negotiable? I don't know if distance is completely a non-negotiable. If I meet somebody that has a great vibe, we have a great conversation, I'm open to exploring, but you have to ask those questions up front. Hey, we live in 2 different places. Who's willing to move? Not to say we're there yet, but are you open? Are you open to moving to a different city?
Exactly.
And if they're like no, then you already know what it is.
Exactly. And I felt like that was always one of the bigger hangups that I had, is because I've always wanted to be very intentional with dating. Sure, it's fun to just have fun, and that's cool and all, but for me, my intention has always been to find someone that I really want to spend my time with, and maybe that takes dating around to narrow it down. But if knowing that's my intention, and I'm like, you've got this amazing family and career and roots where you are, and that's not actually something that where I want to move to. Maybe my career won't allow me to make that move if I wanted to. So now I'm thinking, gosh, do I want to change my career pattern? And like, is this really, how much of this? And then I'm sorry, I'm over here cutting myself off, but I'm thinking to myself, like, how do you get to know someone on the level of who they really are if you're not actually spending time with them in their environment on a regular basis also? You don't.
You don't. And I've I've dated someone in the city, and our schedules don't align because we both travel so much, and it's still hard to get to know them. So I think that's the challenge. Like you have to, and if you're dating long distance, you're going to have to do FaceTime. You're going to have to be, like you said, intentional, make a schedule. We're not going to go 2-3 weeks without seeing each other. Is that realistic? I think if 2 people really want to do it, they will. But I've dated someone in the same city, and it's like, okay, you're a parent, I'm a parent, I travel, you travel, so we're going 3 weeks without seeing each other. And I think no matter where you are, you have to be intentional, because the same thing can happen if you live in the same city.
Right. No, facts. And you mentioned being a parent. So in the situations where you've dated somebody long distance, where you've tried to make it work, and maybe haven't gotten this far yet, but at what point do you introduce a person to your child if it's long distance, or do you ever?
For me, I don't until we're serious. I do not. No one has ever. Somebody's gonna see this, but one person outside of course his father has met my child, but no one can meet him, because if he's meeting you, that's serious. Like, I mean, and when I not just, hey, let me, this is a friend of a friend, but if you're meeting my son, if I'm introducing you as a special friend or whatever the case may be, I want you to be in his life. I want you to build a relationship. And when you're a parent, you have to be very cautious about who you put in someone's life, in your child's life, but also, are you both in a good place? You don't want them getting confused, like, well, mommy, where's this person? Where's that? What happened to this person? And we're not doing, oh, that's uncle this, uncle. No, we don't do it. No.
Oh, God.
Are you ever, knowing that you, now, to just my own transparency, I don't have children, so I've always wondered, I respect that we don't introduce men quickly to the kids, but how do you gauge the point where it's also necessary to see even how they would interact with our child? Like, say you have fallen in love with the one, and then when you do want to integrate, and then you find out that, I actually don't like your parenting style, and I realize that you have children, and maybe I've seen how you interact with your child, but it's different because it's your child. And now I'm having to see how you're going to interact with my child and respecting the boundaries and expectations in my home if there was never any kind of working up to that.
Yeah.
So you have to be you have to listen with a very close ear what people say, because I've dated someone with a child or children, and I've dated someone who didn't. And so, you have to just pay attention to some of the context clues. You have to pay attention to how much are they with their own children, right? What's the situation between, them and the other parent? And sometimes you have no control over that. But, I dated someone who has no kids, but also is really big on mentoring young men and mentoring boys, and, wanting to make sure that they understand manhood and what's it like to be, a young Black male, and has a true affinity for helping other young Black males grow, right? And so, and they don't have children, they want children, but you just have to not be afraid. Don't hold back on the questions, right? Yeah. How do you feel about, step parenting? How do you feel about co-parenting? Because everyone has their thought about co-parenting too. Like, the parents are still sleeping together, all that. So you have to ask those questions, because it is all a part of the process. And if they're like, well, everybody still sleeps together, then you already know they have a level of insecurity. And
right.
Yeah. So I think you have to ask them what their parenting style is. People don't ask those questions. They don't ask, what's your parenting style? Do you want public, private? Do you believe in spanking? What's your spiritual, beliefs? You have to ask all of those questions when it comes to disciplining someone else's child. And then ask them about their own nieces and nephews. Like, hey, what's your dynamic with your family? So I think people sometimes are afraid to ask, someone that they're dating questions because they don't want to impose. But when it comes to your child, and if you decide to have another kid with someone, you need to know up front. Like
that part.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Heaven forbid, right?
Jeez. Okay, so going back to the whole area code thing, now that you've had your experiences and things, what has been the worst or best experiences that you've had dating outside of your area code?
The worst, years ago, years ago, I thought I was dating someone. We had a whole situation somewhere else, and their wife, I think they're married now, is a very well-known entertainer. And I had no idea, and I found out because and not that, it's not, when you're on the road, it's not uncommon that you're not at someone's house, right? You live in different states, but you learn very quickly, when you're young, like, oh, okay, we're just meeting up on the road, like, but you think it's just you, and this, anybody who's in that game, you'll learn very quickly. But I sent something to them. I think I sent like a little birthday gift. And and there was a little clap back, and not in a rude way, but it was kind of like, about not sending something. And then I found out later on, like, they're with this woman who is she's not exactly entertainment, but she's in the entertainment industry, and they are married. And I was
Did
like,
you find out while you guys were still talking? Did you find out while you were still talking, or did you find out after you guys had kind of ceased communications?
I found out after we ceased communication, but I knew something was up.
Got you.
I knew something was up.
Okay.
And you said they weren't married then, but they're married now.
Allegedly.
Okay.
I found out they were married now, but I don't know when they got married.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's probably like that. I'm gonna try to make it sound not as bad as it was. So I'm gonna say we weren't married
right.
yet.
So do you think do you think you would have been more aware of this situation if you guys were spending that same space? Like, you would have seen that there was this other woman if you weren't long distance? I mean, maybe you would have been around more? Because I think that's the other piece. I also feel like when you're kind of dating someone that lives nowhere near you, you're a little out of sight, out of mind.
You can be out of sight, out of mind in the same city.
I mean, you can.
Because I know people that got whole families down the street.
And that's what I was gonna say. I mean, in wishful thinking and in hindsight, as women, we're like, oh, I wish I think I would have known. I would have went to, but you don't know if you're going to their house or the house that they take the woman to. So, I want to say, yes, I think I would have known, but I also know I was young and I didn't know how to ask some of the right questions. Now, I have a very good intuition. So if something in my gut doesn't feel right,
yep.
No. So then what was the best scenario that you've had?
The best scenario.
She's like, clearly I'm not dating that person. So
none of them worked out. They all came to an end at some point.
Damn it.
Well, let me ask this. What's the longest length of time that you were in a relationship with someone in this situation? Like a year, 2 years?
Probably about 3 years.
Oh, you say it like you're not sure, like it's not a good thing. That's a long time.
No, I had to think about it because it was a good 2.5, 3 years, and then it was a little bit on and off. So let's say a solid 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll say a solid 3 years.
And then what ended that situation?
Timing.
Okay.
Just timing. I think that it would have been a beautiful ending had our timing been right. And I just think that our timing was wrong. And I think we both hold a special place in each other's hearts. But timing.
There's no revisiting that? There's no revisiting that? Is there any revisiting that situation?
Is there room for
to revisit that?
No.
I didn't know maybe if the timing aligned now or anything.
No, but and sometimes you just you got to know maybe timing is another lifetime, just not this one.
Okay, Erica Badu.
See you next lifetime.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay, so what was the best out of town date that you've had?
Ooh, did you go anywhere great?
The best out of town date, probably in Miami.
Oh, okay. Oh, she blushing. That was a good date.
I feel like I want to know more. Did he fly you on a private jet? Like how did this go?
One day. No, he did not fly me on a private jet. We met up in Miami, and we both were there for work purposes. So sometimes you have to kind of use work, and both are there. Look, we're gonna make it a date. What I think was so great about it is it was peaceful time on the beach, just talking. Which you can't go wrong with. Sometimes the perfect date is not dinner, roses, all the things. It's being able to be silent with someone.
Oh, say that.
I said my best date was a really chill night. Yeah. Oh, I like it.
We made time, right? So even through the work schedule, like it was like we're gonna make time. And then a little bit of talking. A little bit of talking.
She had to dust them booty cheeks off for a few times. Okay.
Leave an ass print.
Oh my goodness. She said it was a quiet time on the beach. I bet it was. But no, with that even being said, then
I'll say it was perfect because you can date someone, but you can't be around them and in silence, right? Where you're still in tune. So there were moments of, conversation, but then there were moments of, I'm here, I'm with you, we're at peace. And that's a different level of a date. It doesn't, for me, it doesn't always have to be all the glitz and glamour.
We've talked about that a lot too. Like, you know, people saying that